Hello and welcome to the latest episode of our WWE in 2026 series here on TEW. And today it is WrestleMania. This particular episode is going to bring you everything involved in the tour building up to and the show itself of night one of WrestleMania. That is the women's side of the roster and their build to this big event. Now, there has been quite a lot of business going on in the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to start to talk you about I'm going to let me start again, and I'm going to start talking you through some of that stuff. Wade Barrett, who is he even on the roster anymore? Let me just check. So Wade Barrett, here he is. His contract is expiring, and we're going to let it expire. I'm quite a fan of Wade Barrett, but ultimately, because we've now moved the men to one roster, the women to another roster, we don't need two male announced teams, and Wade Barrett is one of the odd ones out. His contract's expiring, so it doesn't make sense for us to keep hold of him for any longer. Sean Davari also recently got his second strike under the wellness policy. I have to stress, as always, that this is just the game, just the avatar of Sean Davari, not Sean Davari himself, had a positive test for steroids. He therefore was suspended for 1 month as a consequence of that, and that Paul Heyman continues to cause issues between AJ Styles and various members of the WWE roster. We don't really know why, but he's just doing it. Tiffany Stratton has signed a new 3-year deal with the company, which it makes sense. She's one of the biggest stars on the women's roster. And we have sent BFAB back to. I was actually going to look at BFAB, but she's not there because obviously we've sent her down. She's been sent back to development. But on the flip side of that, Sol Rucker has been brought up or Sol Ruka, I'm not sure how you say her name. She has been called up to the main roster. We've signed a couple of people to new development deals. I might go over some of those things in the next episode. Big E, who was recently appointed as our kind of what's the word? Backstage person in charge of morale officer, I suppose is probably the name of it. His contract's coming up, and frankly, he's not been doing a great job anyway as the morale officer. So I've decided to let his contract expire as well, which would probably be in real life quite a controversial decision. Also, Sean Bennett and Dallas Irvin, two members of I think they are the NXT roster, both we're going to allow their contracts to expire. Jimmy Uso has been given a new 2-year deal, as has Chelsea Green, given a new 3-year deal. There's one other bit of business has happened, with a decision we've made that I'm not going to tell you about yet because it does affect something that's coming up at one of these WrestleMania shows. So that was a whistle-stop tour of kind of some of the business stuff that's been going on in WWE since the last time you joined us. But let's now go through the women's tour for building up to WrestleMania Night 1. We've actually got one more night of the men's tour still to go on the schedule. So, this is why we're covering the women's tour now, and we'll also then bring you the full card for what you can expect for WrestleMania Night 1, and then bring you WrestleMania Night 1 as part of this whole episode. So let's go back to day one of the road to WrestleMania. This was the first night of the tour. It was part of the build-up for the women's roster. We went to Ireland, and in fact, we toured the UK for this WrestleMania tour. And on night one, Rhea Ripley came out at the start of the show and says that it will be an honor to face Stephanie Vaquer at WrestleMania. This is, of course, following Rhea Ripley's victory at the Tag Classic Final, where she overcame 3 other women in Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, and Jade Cargill to book her place in the main event of WrestleMania. And that was then, therefore, made official as the main event of the show. We also saw Nia Jax issue another open challenge, and this time out came Nikki Cross to answer it, whilst Alexa Bliss did try to stop her, but to no avail, and Nikki Cross then faced Nia Jax and lost the match. This is the continuation, obviously, of the Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss story we've been kind of running since the beginning of the series. And then in the main event, the Judgment Day got the victory when Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill had another bit of miscommunication, and it led to the loss there. So then on day 3 of the tour, we had Nia Jax winning a number 1 contender 4-way match for the US title against Tiffany Stratton, Asuka, and Bayley. So Nia Jax will face Giulia at the WrestleMania for the US title. That has been made official. We had an angle where Bianca Belair called out Jade Cargill for them to try and settle their recent issues, but unfortunately, they came into an argument again and nothing was resolved. And finally, we had a situation where Flair, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, and Maxine Dupree, in this kind of strange mix of personalities and friendships that has been struck up, all teamed together but lost their match against Becky Lynch, Giulia, Stephanie Vaquer, and Candice LeRae. Just bringing the headlines of things that actually matter in terms of the build to WrestleMania here, as opposed to everything, because not all of it does matter ultimately. So then we saw in the main event of the Road to WrestleMania Day 5, the Kabuki Warriors defeated Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss to win the women's tag team titles. Now, this is, of course, as a consequence of the Kabuki Warriors winning the Tag Classic. They got a title shot at the champions, and this was their title shot, and the Kabuki Warriors got the victory. Now, this was in some ways caused by stuff that happened before the match, because we had Alexa tell Charlotte Flair that she doesn't want Maxine at ringside, Charlotte then saying to Alexa that she doesn't want Cross at ringside, then Maxine and Cross fighting, and Alexa and Charlotte having to spend time and energy breaking them up before the match even began, and then they went into the match not very well prepared and lost to the Kabuki Warriors. Also on the night, we had Belair and Cargill lose another match. So this time they were in a team with Stephanie Vaquer against Rhea Ripley, Bayley, and Lyra Valkyria. And once again, Belair and Cargill failed to work well together, causing more friction between the two. And there was also some issues between Natalya and Zelina Vega after the opener. So it was Natalya, Lash Legends, and Damage Control against Zelina Vega, Candice LeRae, and the Glam Regime. And during this match, Natalya and Zelina picked up a little bit of needle with one another, and so Natalya and Zelina wanted to fight after the match, but the other members of the match held them back from doing so. On day 7 of the tour, Bayley and Lyra were named #1 contenders to the tag team titles. Separate to the show itself, it was put out online that Bayley and Lyra were named #1 contenders to the tag team titles and will challenge Asuka and Kairi Sane, the Kabuki Warriors, at WrestleMania in another match confirmed for that night. We saw Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross defeat Charlotte Flair and Maxine Dupree in a tag team match. So now that Bliss and Flair are no longer tag team champions, their respective friendships went into a tag team match against one another, and Alexa Bliss got the victory. Now, this was after Charlotte Flair had challenged Becky Lynch, who she's been feuding with independently of all this stuff, to a match for the IC title. We also had Jade Cargill and the Iconics win a 6-man tag match, and afterwards Bianca Belair came out to speak to Jade Cargill and resolve their issues once more, but this time Cargill and Belair got into a argument and a full-on fight and had to eventually be separated by officials. On day 9 of the tour, we first of all saw Bianca Belair tell Jade that she will find out, as it is made official that at WrestleMania, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill will face one another in a one-on-one contest. We also had Nia Jax attack Giulia after a match that Giulia was in with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross against Charlotte Flair and Maxine Dupree and Candice LeRae, and this was obviously in preparation for their fight over the US title at the pay-per-view. And also we had Becky Lynch accept the challenge of Charlotte Flair for the IC title, making their match official for WrestleMania 2. Day 11 then, and the big happening really on this show was the main event, which was Stephanie Vaquer, Jade Cargill, and Charlotte Flair against Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, and Becky Lynch in a star-studded six-woman tag team match, one of the best-rated women's matches we've had so far in the save. And then after the match, all 6 of these women ended up brawling all over the arena in a wild fight that obviously did pretty well in terms of the ratings here. Then on the final day of the tour, WrestleMania, Road to WrestleMania Day 13, first of all, Rhea Ripley tells Stephanie Vaquer that this has now gotten personal between them after starting out as kind of a respectful kind of feud. After the previous week where they went into a big brawl, it's now gotten personal between those two. And finally, after Bianca Belair defeated Kiana James, Jade Cargill attacked Bianca Belair after the match and sent a message just a few days before WrestleMania. Incidentally, also, whilst this has all been going on, the Judgment Day have been losing a couple of multi-man or multi-women, I should say, matches and tag team matches. You saw Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez lose a tag match there. You've seen also on day 13, the Judgment Day losing the main event, and that is because of Michin, who still has an issue with all of the Judgment Day after what happened to her during the Tag Team Classic, and Michin has been costing them a series of matches. So that is everything that's taken place on the road to WrestleMania for the women's roster. We'll go into what happened in the men's side of the tour in the next episode, along with day 2 of WrestleMania. But let's just now give you a kind of rundown of the big matches that are taking place on night 1 of WrestleMania. So first of all, we have got the WWE Women's World Title match, Stephanie Vaquer versus Rhea Ripley. This is the main event. I've got to be honest, my expectations are not particularly high because Vaquer has not been forming in the ring at the level that I think WrestleMania main eventer needs. But this is ultimately where we've landed because of the fact that we inherited where the women's roster was when we came into the game. The next big match, Women's Intercontinental title, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair. These two will face each other for the IC belt, revisiting a feud that they've been in for many, many years, and they've obviously headlined WrestleMania against one another as well. This year they won't be headlining, but they will be in a major match against each other. The Kabuki Warriors defend their tag team titles against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria actually performed very well in the tag classic, but the Kabuki Warriors were the overall winners. They also, Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, actually beat the Kabuki Warriors during that tournament, and so they will now face one another in a match for the tag team titles. Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill has been a bit of a dream match that people have been talking about since Jade Cargill arrived in WWE, and it's going to happen at WrestleMania on night 1 in our save. And also the US title match, Giulia defending against Nia Jax. Nia Jax has been dominant in recent months, getting big victories over big stars in a number of cases, and also other smaller wrestlers as well. And she now has the chance to win the US title. In addition to those 5 big matches, we've also got the Judgment Day against Michin and 3 other wrestlers that will be joining her on the night. We've got the Powerhouse, that is Ivy Nile and Jordan Grace, along with Lash Legend. They're going up against the Glam Regime. Natalya will be facing Zelina Vega in a singles match. We've got Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross teaming together against the Iconics. And finally, we have got a sort of an amalgam of a number of different wrestlers who didn't have anywhere else on the card. Trish Stratus, AJ Lee, and Sol Ruka will take on Candice LeRae, Maxine Dupree, and Kiana James. So that is the full list of matches, 10 of them for WrestleMania Night 1. And after this very short cut, we will be with you for that event. Okay, so here we are. It is WrestleMania 42, Night 1, or WrestleMania Saturday, as the games called it, and as WWE call it, in fairness, in front of 36,242 people at the Citizens Bank Park in the tri-state area. And it begins with special entrances given to AJ Lee and Trish Stratus as they come out in front of the crowd to get things kicked off here with a segment rating of 69. What a great way to start the show. They are in action alongside Sol Ruka next against Candice LeRae, Maxine Dupree, and Kiana James in not a particularly good match where Sol Ruka has sustained a fractured cheekbone, which is a real disappointment because we were trying to spotlight Sol Ruka in this one. She won the match in 9:40 by pinning Kiana James, but as I say, she has also suffered an injury in doing so. Her performance wasn't bad, nor was AJ Lee's or Trish Stratus's, but their opponents didn't do particularly well here. Segment rating of 44. Then it is next the tag team match as the Iconics take on Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Obviously, Bliss and Cross have just come together again since this game has started. Since the save has started, I should say. And you see here they win against the Iconics in 10:34 when Alexa Bliss pinned Billie Kay with a twisted bliss. She carried the match as well with 53 rated performance, not particularly great from anyone, but a segment rating of 50. And I did forget to mention I've literally got every single member of the women's roster who is healthy onto this show, and even one or two that are not fully healthy. Next up, Natalia faced Zelina Vega. Another decent match here, just gradually improving as the night goes on. Maybe a segment rating of 52. Natalia got a 53 here, Zelina Vega a 41 as these two face each other to continue this feud. Then we had Lash Legend and the Powerhouse take on the Glam Regime, which is Chelsea Green, Tiffany Stratton, and Alba Fire. And in this one, the Lash Legend and the Powerhouse got the victory with Ivy Nile pinning Alba Fire after 10 minutes and 56 seconds. Tiffany Stratton did a 60 in-ring performance here. Everyone else a little bit poor, actually. Lash Legend a 37, Ivy Nile a 39, etc. And Jordan Grace was slowed by injury because she's currently carrying I think, a broken jaw. So impressive that she got through the match. A rating of 51 nonetheless. Then after this match, Natalia comes out to the ring, and she and Lash Legend then shake hands with Ivy Nile and Jordan Grace, potentially signaling some kind of of alliance. Who knows? We'll find out, I'm sure, in good time. Then the 8-man tag match, which saw the Judgment Day, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Roxanne Perez, and Cora Jade take on Michin, Nikki Bella, and Damage Control, Io Sky and Dakota Kai. A 62 rated match, this one, with Michin finally getting a measure of revenge on the Judgment Day, getting the victory here. Io Sky pinned Cora Jade with a German suplex and a bridge, 15 minutes and 24 seconds. Cora Jade was the weak link. Everyone else performed pretty well. Io Sky was a 69. We had a creative finish here. I don't know why it's called Ripley versus Vaquer. It's just the way I accidentally. I'm not. I'm just still getting to grips with the creative finishes in this game, and that was just what this one was called. But a segment rating of 62, so it helped it along. And in general, everyone was pretty good in this one. The next, Giulia faced Nia Jax in a match for the United States title. Not potentially as good as I was hoping here. Segment rating of 52. Giulia had an in-ring performance of 56 and Nia Jax of 47, but it is Giulia who has successfully defended the US title, her 5th defense of the belt, in 12 minutes and 48 here with a diving cross body. And I know that Nia Jax has been getting a big push as of late, but we wanted to give Giulia a really big career enhancing victory over someone who's reasonably well established, and that's what she did in this one. Then Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill, another disappointing contest, segment rating of 54. During the match, Ivy Nile distracted Bianca, and then she was attacked from behind by Jordan Grace, which helped Jade Cargill get the pinfall here in 14 minutes and 6 seconds. So Jordan Grace and Ivy Nile helped Jade Cargill in this one, a segment rating of 54. Bianca Belair did a 59, Cargill a 48. And then after the match, Cargill, Niall, and Grace are joined in the ring by Lash Legend and Natalia. And Jade Cargill gets on the microphone and reveals herself to be the mastermind behind the powerhouse and says that everyone should welcome this new stable that will absolutely outpower the rest of the roster. For a segment rating of 4-3, a disappointment here as we introduce this kind of whole new stable. Although we've had the powerhouse together up to this point, they're now joined by Cargill, Lash Legend, and Natalia all on this one night. Still, 3 matches to go. Let's hope things improve. And they do a little bit here. Segment rating of 62 as the Kabuki Warriors defend the tag team titles against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria in a 17-minute, 24-second match where Asuka pinned Valkyria with an elevated insane elbow. Kairi Sane and Asuka were the best performers in the match. Bayley was only a 58, unfortunately, and Lyra kept Valkyria a 49. So the first title defense for the Kabuki Warriors as women's tag team champions and a segment rating of 62. But unfortunately, the crowd heat here is unclear after a couple of really poor matches in the middle of this show. And it stays unclear despite a really decent match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, a segment rating of 69. Becky Lynch did a 72, Charlotte Flair a 60. They have good chemistry, and that lifted the match. And we have a new Intercontinental Champion because Charlotte Flair has defeated Becky Lynch in 21 minutes and 7 seconds by pinfall. As you can see, the original official was knocked out because Maxine Dupree came out and stopped Becky Lynch from getting a pin on Charlotte when she pulled out the referee, and that meant that Daphne LaShawn had to take over as the referee, and then Charlotte Flair later picked up the victory, and it becomes the new Intercontinental Champion. So just time then for the main event, and the main event was a 57 rated match. I was fearful of this because, quite frankly, we just do not have the quality of wrestlers in the women's division as we do in the men's, at least in the game's mind. And what's worse is that Stephanie Vaquer and Rhea Ripley just don't click at all, and it showed in their performance. It made for an awkward bout. So in general, this was a bit of a disaster, actually. Rhea Ripley, a 59 rated performance, Stephanie Vaquer, 46. And it's Rhea Ripley who becomes the women's champion, winning in 1815 by pinfall with a riptide. That is the main event, and that is a very poor show in terms of what we need. It lost its popularity in 57 regions. Um, and yes, the general feeling continues to be that WWE do not have enough storylines rated hot or above going on. And frankly, I couldn't get any of the stories running into this show to get up to that level. And that's one of the problems here. But we have new women's champion, we have new women's intercontinental champion, we have a new stable run by Jade Cargill, or led by Jade Cargill, ultimately the powerhouse, now 5 in number. Giulia defended her title, the Kabuki Warriors defended their title, various other bits and pieces went on too. This is obviously a disappointing end to the show and this tour, but I do feel like we're getting very, very close now to this roster being in the position I want it to be. I think ultimately where the game was, and where WWE was in terms of the start of this save, were a little bit apart in terms of their evaluation of the talent in WWE. Like, WWE obviously had Stephanie Vaquer as one of their champions, and Jade Cargill in real life was one of the champions, although in the game she wasn't. And I think that the game didn't rate either of those people as highly as perhaps WWE do. And so, therefore, we've had a lot of sorting out to do to try and get everybody back into a position of which they are, which appropriate for them to be at. So, anyway, that is night one of WrestleMania. A disappointment, but all the same, it is what it is. I think we're going to give some credit though to Charlotte and Becky, who had the, I think, match of the night. I think Asuka as well is going to be complimented, and I think we will compliment somebody else. To Io Sky was pretty good in her match, so they are pleased. Sol Ruka still working through an injury. In fact, that was the injury she picked up, of course. 22 days, but it can be worked through. Financial report. I mean, we made loads of money, but our popularity has dropped pretty much everywhere. 77s all the way down here. Very, very poor. Hopefully the men's night 2 of WrestleMania can make up for this. And then the media scrum. With tonight's show complete, you have chosen to take part in it. It seems like everyone agrees that WrestleMania Saturday was pretty underwhelming. Um, I'm not going to go crazy with defending them. Will Charlotte Flair, having won the Intercontinental title tonight, is this the start of a big push for her? Um, Rhea Ripley won the WWE Women's title at tonight's show. Should we be expecting her to have a long reign? I mean, I really don't like this. What is the point of these media scrums? I mean, I guess they give certain wrestlers a boost in morale. Uh, let's do that. Bianca Belair is coming to the end of her current deal. Will she still be in WWE 6 months from now? We'll do everything we can to keep her. Billy Kay was offered games night. How disappointed are you in her consistency? I'm sure that was a one-off. You have two workers, Natalia and AJ Lee, who really don't like each other. Are you planning to address this? Okay. You have two workers who really don't like each other. I'm going to just do the same. Yeah, I don't like the media scrum. I think that's clear from me. Anyway, that's the post show. And our next episode will be next week when we bring you WrestleMania Night 2. Can the men do it where the women have not managed to in this episode? Let's hope so, because otherwise we're in deep, deep trouble. That's everything from me. Thanks for watching.